Lewis from Squeaky Clean Commercial Cleaning Company. I wanted to take a moment to drop a video about what's going on in the life of an entrepreneur and what I'm going through today. So today we are in the first day of a post-construction clean that we're doing for this dealership. Well, of course, the construction company or general contractor is the one that hired us for a dealership that they have renovated. And this is now my second or third, third post-construction clean, but second big post-construction clean. And each time I do something, I'm learning more and more as I go. Now, the previous construction clean we did probably a little over a month ago. It was a 7-Eleven. They had just built it and they were trying to turn it over to the client. And they needed us to come in there and do a clean. And I learned an absolute great deal from that experience because there were things that I did not do previously or that I did not prepare for that kind of made the job take a little bit longer than it should have, that delayed the payments from the company. Also that, required me to come back in and redo some spots or some areas that the client wasn't satisfied with. So I learned a lot from it and I carried that over into this new clean. So what I'll do is I'll go back to the other post-construction clean and tell you what I did not do, and then fast forward to today's job. So with the other company, like I said, it was a 7-Eleven. They had just built it. It, was pretty much in the final stages, and in order for them to turn it over, it has to meet certain guidelines, certain requirements, so that the client can accept the building from the contractor. So we go in there, and the general contractor, who's a nice guy, but he didn't seem like he was necessarily that experienced when it came to being the general contractor in charge. So we walked in, we did our walkthrough, and he was like, well, he pointed out things that he thought needed to be cleaned. He was, well, this area, can you do this? In that area, can you do that? And so forth. And what I learned is that what I learned from that, which carried over to this new account, is that I had them specifically send me what their scope of work is, or basically what their expectation is for us completing the job. And the reason why I did that is because when we had the previous job, we did everything that the general contractor wanted us to do. But then when the client that the general contractor was working for came in, who we were not working for, we were working for the general contractor, they wanted us to do this, they wanted us to do that extra stuff that we weren't hired to do. Now, being the business person that I am, and I want the client to have a good experience. If it wasn't outrageous or anything like that, I said, okay, we'll do it. All right, no problem, we'll do it, because we wanted the client to be satisfied. And of course, customer satisfaction leads to good reviews, leads to more jobs. So it wasn't a big deal. It wasn't anything out of the way. But when you keep asking for more and more things, then you have to put your foot down and say, okay, well, if this is or was not in the scope of work that we were hired for, which is why now I make them send me either their expectations of what they want the facility to look like when it's complete, or a breakdown of what the scope of work is going to be, so that when we do come in there, we're going to follow the scope of work to the T, and there's no confusion. And now somebody else can't come in and say, well, we need you to do this, we need you to do that, and you end up being there an hour, 2 hours longer than you had anticipated, which in turns starts to dwindle the profit that you had anticipated you receiving from the job. So you need to know what the scope of work is. So that's what I learned from that job. Also, another thing that I learned from it is that when you're doing this, when you first get the post-construction clean, you have to kind of anticipate that there's going to be a delay in the pay, because a lot of times what happens is that the contractor turns the building over to the client, and then they get paid from the client, and then they pay you. Well, you don't know how long that process works. So if you don't find out beforehand what the payment terms are, because everybody is not the same. Usually it's net 30, it may be even net 60, net 90. You don't know. So you need to find out what that information is, what it is in the beginning. Now, with this previous job that we had, it was quick. He needed somebody to come in there and get it taken care of because he anticipated turning the building over to the client the week prior. Ended up not being that, but we had come in there anyway and did a lot of cleaning, and then we had to come back in and do more cleaning because they had more stuff that they either neglected to do or had to do or whatever the case may be. But we went in there for a second clean. Now, don't get me wrong, I of course charged them again for the second clean, but in that second clean is where the time started getting extended because the person kept coming in and saying, well, do this, do that, and the third. Now, to this point, we still hadn't done any real accounting paperwork in order for their accounting to put in the purchase order for us to get paid. So with that being said, we had already done the job, but we hadn't done the paperwork to get paid. So that's going to delay our payment even longer, in addition to whatever the net terms would be, which I did not know because I did not check beforehand. I just took the job and went with it and did the job. And now I'm still trying to find out, okay, well, what is this? When am I going to get paid? I keep sending them reminders. So you need to know that stuff before you even do the job. So my thing is with post-construction cleans is that, of course, you're going to have your terms, what your payment terms are, but your payment terms may not line up with what the company's payment terms are. So you need to get on the same page. Are you going to accept that? Are you not? Do you want to? Can y'all adjust? Can y'all negotiate or whatever? It's possible. You just need to have that understanding beforehand. And I would recommend doing that before you even start the job. I don't normally start jobs now without them signing my contract or service agreement, whatever it may be. Usually with one-time jobs, I consider it a service agreement, not really a contract or proposal or anything like that. So they need to sign that, and that's my paperwork saying, okay, this is the job we agreed to. This is what the terms are. Now, of course, those terms can be negotiable. Also, this is what the scope of work is, so there's no confusion. Get that stuff taken care of in the beginning so that when you get the job completed, you don't have to worry about, okay, well, when am I going to get paid? When am I going to get paid? I have no idea. But if you know that beforehand, you don't have to worry about it. So get all your ducks in a row in the beginning before you even start the job. That way, there's no confusion on either end.